So most of the gay community has stolen the banks off the head of Holland. Dutch own the banks, all the banks around the world. And the gay community in Britain and America, mostly in Britain, they have stolen the banks off the head of Holland. Right. Now, they've stolen the banks of Hitler, and then they blamed Hitler for the Holocaust that he didn't do. He got out of the war very soon after it kicked off. 3 or 4 years later, Hitler was out. His story is another story I'll talk about that later. But for now, the banks have been stolen off the head of Holland. The head of Holland actually comes up in the Disney film Mary Poppins. Dick Van Dyke is playing my dad, the head of Holland and the owner of all the banks. Okay, so now the banks were stolen off the Dutch that are married into the British royal family, and now the British Queen's people are Dutch, and they've had the bank stolen off them by psychopathic gay people and Africa and dark Indians. Now, they've stolen the banks of the Dutch head of Holland that married into the royal family about 50 years ago. So now the British people are Dutch and they've had the banks stolen off them. Stolen off them by dark Indians too, all the corner shops. They've stolen the banks off the Queen's people, a huge amount of money, billions and billions every year. We're now made homeless by that same group, those dark Indians, the gay community. All right, so I'm in the supermarket, and there's one area where you need a credit card to pay for your shopping, right? So the other area you have to wait for in a queue. Sometimes they're long queues, right? So I can't get a credit card from the bank. They won't give me a credit card because I'm the head of Holland. Those dark Indians are in the area where you got a credit card and you can do your shopping very quickly. I see the dark Indians have all got credit cards, but I can't get a credit card. The banks won't give me a credit card. I've got no credit problems ever in my life, ever. They're doing this because I own the banks. Me and my wife, Pilgrim, we own the banks. She is also being played by Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is Pilgrim, my wife, and we own the banks. The banks won't give me a credit card. They're the dark Indians, that's why. You don't see them in the counter there, but they own those banks. They've stolen it. They're a gay community in Soho, in London, for instance. Right, so now the dark Indians are allowed to get a credit card, but I'm not allowed a credit card because I'm in the royal family. I'm part of the extended royal family. I'm part of the Churchill family, British Army. And these dark Indians at running the banks, they won't let me have a credit card. So they're getting their shopping real quick in the supermarkets, but I'm not allowed. So the dark Indian corner shops have stolen the banks of the British Army, of the Royal Air Force. They're prolific homosexual paedophiles and the far right. And their far right looks like this. It's actually 50 Africans to one far right guy. So for every far right, there's 50 Africans that come with him. Look at France. That's the far right that have done that. Nazis. So for bank theft warrants the death sentence. If those dark Indians have got a credit card, they're going to get killed. That's not their banks. They're not allowed to allocate who can have money and who can't. Definitely not them. We have to put a stop to it like that. Okay, these dark Indians are attacking Britain and America severely because they're actually in the hospitals, and that's where they do their most of the damage is going on in there. All right, so these dark Indians are not allowed a credit card anymore in America or Britain, and the people who are volunteer civilians interested in doing jobs for the British Army and the American military, and we take back our banks off the people we know who's stolen it. Corner shops, grocery stores, 7-Eleven, spa shops, dark Indians in the hospitals. They've stolen the banks off the Queen's people. Now, the procedure next is to arrest these dark Indians, and if they've got a credit card, remove it immediately. Snap it in half. They're not allowed a credit card. No dark Indians in England or America are allowed a credit card. You're allowed to arrest them to check if they've got one, and if they have, they've broken the law. And that credit card will now be taken off them.